Going to be a logbook trip, which means it's going to be a drive all the way out there, hook up, make it partially back, put a driver up in a hotel for the night, and then I could at least probably get back to Ontario. My exemption for hours would kick in. Now, I wouldn't expect a driver to do that full return trip.
Yeah, your truck's going to be gone for about 3 days.
I was really hoping to do it. I have a wedding to go to Sunday. When I asked my wife yesterday, if I were to leave this morning and be back by Saturday night at the latest, on a scale of like 1 to 10, how upset are you? And she's like, are you really asking me that? And I was like, ooh, that's over 10. I know that. That's over 10 because she's in the wedding. So she's got preparatory stuff to do for the wedding, right? And she's like, well, I'm pretty much gone all day tomorrow. I'm like, perfect. You already got plans then. What does it matter if I'm gone? It was not the answer she wanted.
No, you never seem to be in the best terms with your wife. Thanks to the towing industry and your personality.
She'll learn one day. That's all I can say. She'll learn one day. Don't give me that. Don't give me I'm wrong. Can't handle that this early in the morning.
Just calls it as I sees it, buddy.
Spade's a spade.
Welcome to the Towing Life podcast.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life podcast.
Welcome to the Towing Life podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I am your host, TowManG, and as usual, I am joined by my co-host, friend, and former co-worker, the man with very strong opinions, Mr. PlainGuy.
What is going on, G? What is going on?
Oh, well, we just had a wonderful conversation about how you pissed off your wife this week.
Yeah, so typical Saturday.
Yeah, typical Saturday.
Nothing new on this end, clearly.
No.
Yes, for those of you that don't miss the parts that G will put into the intro, which I'm sure he will, it is another week of living with PlainGuy. Another week of me getting under her skin one way or another. I've really learned the skill of it. I truly believe it's a skill and an art form. One that I share with many operators in the industry, I'm sure.
Yep.
And something that I would like to say that I'm not proud of, but let's be honest.
You're bragging about it, so yeah, you kind of are proud of it.
I am a little bit. The amazingness on how I've been able to push her buttons over the years, and she continues to love me she's a wonderful woman. She's a special woman. I'll say that for sure, to be able to put up with me.
Yeah. When are you having her back on the show?
Oh, we should do it again.
Now that she's actually in the industry.
Yeah, 100%. We should. Mm-hmm. The problem with my wife when it comes to having her on the show is my wife and I have great conversations about the towing industry now, obviously, with both of us being actively involved in it. Mm-hmm. However, her brain shuts off the minute you put a microphone near her. Like she's one of those people that it's all fine to have this conversation. Mm-hmm. And I told her, like, just close your eyes. Like, we'll put the mic in front of you and just, and she freezes right up, doesn't know what to say, doesn't know what to do. She does not carry that gift of gab when it comes to the fact that there's a camera or a microphone in her face.
So just record the conversation without her knowing. We're in Ontario. You only need one party consent.
That is Canada, not Ontario, 100%. Yeah, but yes, no, you just said that I need to be nicer to my wife.
Yeah.
And then follow that up by you should record her without her knowledge for the sake of our show.
Yeah.
I actually think it's not a terrible idea, and it's something that I will absolutely look into. You'll have a lot.
That's why I brought it up, because I know that's something you would think about.
You'll have a lot of editing to do because she'll, her cursing will need to be edited.
After the first 30 seconds of the video, it doesn't really matter.
The names that she calls me will need to be edited.
No, we'll leave those in.
Some of them may not be appropriate for YouTube or Spotify or Amazon Music or wherever our listeners are listening into this week to episode 128. I had to double check to make sure I had the right number.
Yep. Lots of training.
So once again, listeners, thank you for joining us. Viewers, listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Towing Life podcast. We've got some fun stuff on the go. as we see G's dog walking around behind him, wondering why he's locked into a room with this funny looking man. Sorry. It'll lead into great conversations moving forward on things we want to talk about today in the towing industry. Before we get to it, any questions, comments, concerns you have about anything that we say on the show, or if you'd like to submit your own questions, you can visit us at www.towinglife.ca. Email us directly at thetowinglife@gmail.com. So thetowinglife@gmail.com, or find us at the Towing Life Podcast on Facebook. If you're listening over on the YouTube side or watching over on the YouTube side, be sure to drop down below, leave a comment, and as always, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It's a free way to support the show, whether you're going to tune in every week or not on YouTube. If you subscribe, it helps with our numbers, it helps with our forecasting, it helps push us farther onto the platform. As you know, we are Canada's #1 towing podcast, and I think we want to make a push to take over the American spot from our wonderful friends at the Tow Business Podcast. I think we've already done numbers. Don't tell Jeff and Brad, but I think we're slowly taking over their listenership. I think they just listen to us for our accents and the weird way that we say words. Yeah.
Well, when you really think about it, that's kind of what everyone tunes in for entertainment, right? They find something that they giggle because people are different, and they're like, "I like that guy."
If only we liked more things that were different in this world, we'd have less problems. That being said, one of the first topics I want to get into, and I know for our American listeners, you guys got a little bored back when we did an episode about TSSEA, and we said we would leave it alone for a bit, and we will. We're not going to go through all the legislation changes, all the things that are still happening in it, but we did want to bring up.
This is more like the government being, "Oh yeah, we're going to do this," and then they turn around and do this behind your back and screw you over.
100%.
So
There's
you
arguments
American listeners can understand this part.
There could be multiple arguments for this. I have a father who works for the government. God bless him and the arguments that we have. I know he's a listener to the show, so it makes it even more fun. My father, for those that don't know, works in health and safety, we'll call it. I won't name out any specific anywheres. Health and safety. So you can imagine the conversations we would have around the dinner table. Not that we get to sit down and have very much, dinner very often. But when it comes to health and safety, right? His job is to enforce health and safety. My job is to go play in traffic. And so when he would hear us say about, the failure for vehicles to slow down and move over, his solution is, well, then you should shut down a lane. You should, have a crash truck, have all these resources because people can't follow the rules. Right. And I kind of sit there and go, I get it. Driver safety needs to be priority, right? Like slow down, move over, be aware, have your PPE on, all that kind of stuff. I'm with you. However, there is things that are reasonable and things that aren't. So, yes, it's, again, I play in traffic. He tells people to, play in traffic safely. If not, gives them tickets. So luckily I've never had to run into him. I hope to keep it that way. But we do have, coming out of the city of Ottawa, we have a driver and a company, and I know this company well, and I actually reached directly out to them to get some backstory to this ticket. Have received what I'm aware of as the first bunch, because there was multiple companies that received them. But the first bunch of tickets under the new TSSEA. Now, when the government launched TSSEA, they explained that this is obviously major changes to the industry, right? The ministry recognizes that the transition to provincial-led oversight is a significant change to the industry. As Ontario transitions to the new oversight model, MTO has encouraged our enforcement partners to, when possible, support the industry adjustment to the new model by educating the towing sector of the changes coming in effect and directing them to the towing and storage vehicle requirements to learn more. The educational and awareness period for TSSEA requirements ends, and enforcement of the TSSEA will begin on April 1st, 2024. So the government kind of came out and said, look, we know this is a big change. We understand it, right? It's going to hurt. So, and I think it's the reasonable approach. We're going to give you a little bit of a grace period while we, implement this to educate you on the things that are missing. The things that you may need, right? The things that maybe you thought you were doing right, but you weren't.
Mm-hmm.
all of these things.
Yeah, it would be a great time to have officers and MTO officers hand out written warnings.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, this situation was, and I'll blow it up again for those on the viewership side. We don't need to see the bottom amount; it's irrelevant at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we will see a ticket out of Ottawa for tow operator fail to ensure name and certificate number displayed on tow truck as required.
Mm.
So under the new TSSEA, you are required to have your company name, which I know this company, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
But you are also, this new license we have to apply for, your TO number as a tow operator, which is the business,
Mm-hmm.
needs to be on the truck. Now, they haven't really given any guidelines.
Any size requirements or anything?
No, they just said it needs to be on the truck at this point.
Mm.
So a lot of guys have been waiting, going like, okay, well, as they adjust this, there's going to be a requirement for sizing and all that. Instead of printing 20 different stickers,
Yeah.
I'll wait. We have them on all of our fleet. I even put them on our traffic units. Not that they classify as a tow truck under TSSEA requirements.
Yeah, smart.
But,
just cover all your bases.
Just, we don't know.
Yep.
Well, this company didn't. And not against, like, I have no problem with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an educational period. They were still waiting. I believe they had an email off to the ministry asking for the requirements of the sticker prior to the ticket to make sure they had their ducks lined up in a row.
Yep.
And this officer pulled them over. And it wasn't, so the first thought I had when I hear this is you go, all right, well, this officer was just being a dick, right? He was, maybe they chased an accident that he didn't like. Maybe there was, an altercation on scene that happened and the officer looked for anything in the book that he could write the ticket on, right? Because I'd like to give the officer the benefit of the doubt. I give the towing industry the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, the towing industry has taught me many times that you don't give them the benefit of the doubt, because a lot of times we are the ones that are at fault in situations like this. So talking with him this morning, I asked, what was the deal? And he goes, what's the deal? The truck was driving down the road. Just driving down the road, either heading to a call, whatever it was. And this traffic cop for the city of Ottawa pulled him over and said, hey, pull up into the gas station. And went over the truck front to bottom. So it's like a commercial vehicle inspection.
Yep.
Right? There is officers in the province that may not be actual DOT that you would have in the States, but they are, DOT trained, so to speak, and they're required to do so many, inspections a year, and wrote him a ticket for not having the sticker.
Wow.
And now there was a gaggle of companies that got this, right? 4 or 5 companies all got this in the past week. And it's frustrating. Because would we be having the same story if this was I know this company. I know they're a good company. I know they're not a predatory company. Right? So to get written a ticket, no warning, and it's about a $430 ticket, I believe, $450, something like that, with the victim surcharge in it.
Yep.
To be given the ticket for an admin, error by not having this number on it. During an educational period, and them not being a predatory towing company, or a known who has a history of, who has complaints against, who anything like that, because I can say a company is a predatory towing company as long if there's no stats to back that up, then right. So to see good companies already starting to run into issues under TSSEA while we're in an educational period, while we're given the opportunity. Now, do I feel that these tickets will hold in court? I don't know, right? Depends on the judge that day. Do I feel that they should? No. Right? You cannot give us a time period to learn and to comply, and then 45 days into this 90-day grace period, just start writing the tickets. Now,
well, government does that with a lot of things. They take an inch and they think it's actually a mile, and they blow things way out of proportion all the time, right? So it's nothing new. It's a shame that it happens, and unfortunately, $450 is a decent chunk of money, but a lot of big companies, they'll probably just end up paying it. Why are they going to put it through the court system and actually get a day in court to go and actually fight it when they could just pay the $450 and have it over and done?
Well, that's the thing. Even if you feel this ticket is unjust and is easily winnable in court or dismissed in court, you still have to lose a day's work to go do it. You're right. But 100%, I don't care if, don't forget. Okay. So under this TSSEA requirement, right? Upon conviction of an infraction against these regulations, the director is notified.
Yep.
So in other words, your company gets a ding put against
Your
in
new
the,
license number.
in the registry, so to speak,
Yep.
of the government. Now, will one ticket for not displaying a tow operator number have an effect? I would say unlikely. I can't see them
I
suspending
hope not.
or removing your license for that. Like, that would be a little aggressive. But we
Mhm.
don't know. There is no exact guidelines
Yep.
to, it's not like a driver's license where if you get so many infractions, that you're due to do this kind of, like, there hasn't been that clear cut laid out process. So
Mhm.
you do not want any infractions against your company in this registry, that we'll call it, for tow
Mhm.
trucks in Ontario.
Yep.
So you
Yeah,
have
they
to fight
should
it.
really bring out like a demerit point system like they have for the actual driver's license and put points assigned to each type of infraction, and you get
Yeah,
50 points in a 10-year period, and if you go over, you're fucked.
yeah, absolutely. Like, the
Yep.
right there, I'm sure there eventually will be some sort of structure, some sort of understanding. But like
Mhm.
anything new from the government, clarity isn't fully there yet, because this is something that is going to adapt and change
Mhm.
as the right. Like, why not give him a ticket for not having his posted maximum rate schedule?
Yep.
Right? They've extended the submission requirements, but you're giving them something that was also in a grace period. So,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like, it's just scary to think, and I truly believe it's a miscommunication among the government.
Mhm.
Meaning, this Ottawa police officer, and we even blurred out his name so that, there's no
Yep.
reason to target anyone specifically. But this officer didn't, have the information that he needed for this.
You got the memo saying that it came into effect Jan 1st, and that's just what he's been
100%. And he,
going with.
and he and he said, you know what? I mean, he probably had his car towed one time by a predatory like practice, or had a family member that did. And he said, yeah, watch this.
Mhm.
I've got a personal vendetta against operators. That happens, right?
Mhm.
I as much as, police and everything are supposed to say impartial,
They're
I 100%
humans.
would understand that. If that's the case. Again, I'm speculating completely, but yeah, it is aware. So anyone that does listen from the Ontario side, be sure, if you want to at least save yourself the day in court, if you want to purposely go to court to try and have fun and fight stuff, then I mean, drive around, the city of Ottawa without a TO number on your truck, and see how many you can rack up.
Yep.
We do encourage anyone else who has received any tickets through the TSSEA. I'm not legal guidance. I'm not legal counsel. I cannot give you any advice to helping those things.
Mhm.
Everything that we talk about here is strictly of opinion, and that of our own.
Mhm.
Should not constitute as legal advice or business advice. However, I do recommend that if you do have a ticket, send it over to us, and we'll continue to, we'll talk about them as they come, and help raise awareness, and go from there. But it's obviously something that needs to be watched and
Mhm.
needs to be considered, because it's coming. Right, this is not the last ticket that we're going to see written under the regs for TSSEA.
It's really a crying shame because just like Ontario, just like the rest of the world, in each state province, the demographic changes dramatically depending on where you are. And most of these rules and regulations were written because of Toronto, Ottawa, and London. Really, those three main cities where bad shit was happening in the industry. And unfortunately, the rest of the province now has to follow suit because they've made it a province wide thing. And you
We've
get
been
that with
painted with the
everything.
same brush. Yep.
Yeah. Um, and these types of rules and regulations are just making operating costs go up for everyone, which then you have to reciprocate by charging your customers more. And for the people in rural towns up north in northern Ontario, they're not charging what they're charging down in the city for service in the first place because the money's probably not in that town to begin with. They probably run older equipment. They've already had that built into their business structure to help out their local small community, and they're a pinnacle pillar of that community because they offer a service at a decent value for that area and compared to other parts of the province. And I'm sure you see that in the States and wherever you are. Once you get out of the major cities, prices normally go down in a lot of things. Like if you're an elevator mechanic or a repair guy out in bumfuck Idaho, you probably don't make that much money, or you have to commute to the city to where the money is. That's just how the world seems to work. And when you hit a whole province with vastly different people and vastly different locations with a blanket thing like this, there's going to be people that get thrown under the rug per se because they just might not be able to meet those requirements, or it's just going to make their operating costs too much and they physically can't charge their customers anymore because maybe they just don't have the money too. And it's a shame.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head whenever you said it, that it's something that will drive up costs, and we're seeing it already, and it's impacting more the small companies than the big companies, right?
Mhm.
But, I mean, such is the industry,
Yep.
evolve or die.
Yep.
Truly believe that should be
Well,
the
it's
motto
not
for the
even
entire
so much
industry.
evolve or die. Look at the fire department. You go up north, they probably got volunteer firefighters. They might have one or two trucks for a X amount of kilometer radius. But then when you get into the city, they have multiple stations, multiple people on 24-hour shifts or however they do it because they have more people, they have more land, they got to do all these other fancy jobs. But when you get into rural Ontario and rural anywhere, the fire department scale drops because they don't need all these big fancy things. They don't need to have 30 people on the payroll. Towing's the same in the same aspect of things, really, in that regard. Of if you don't have that massive clientele base because you don't live in a populated area, you don't need all these extra trucks. You might have one or two guys or just yourself, and you can handle your call volume, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to evolve in that aspect if your one town hasn't grown but 30 people in the last 10 years. It just doesn't make sense in those aspects. In the city, yes, 100%. Toronto has become even bigger. A smaller town called Newmarket, which is just like 45 minutes north of the city. That used to be a small town. Now that's like another small city. It's almost at 100,000 people. It's grown tremendously. I hate going there personally because it just feels too much like the city. It's not a small town like it used to be when my parents grew up. It used to be dirt roads,
Mhm.
just like anywhere. But in the past 50 years, that one town that used to have 10,000 people is now almost 90. That town has grown. Town, people in that town need to evolve because times have actually changed. You go another hour, an hour and a half north, places haven't changed like that over the last 50 years.
No, it's true. No, it's true. But like I said, if you don't follow in the regulations, it isn't going to matter if you don't want to change, because you have to change. You have to evolve.
Yeah.
Or the government leads the option to push you out.
Mm-hmm.
So, the good old fun of the towing industry. Unfortunately, we could always find negative things to say about it.
It's more
And
so government and
well,
government overreach, I think.
I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. The scariest words you'll ever hear.
Time for our tinfoil hats.
So moving on from that, as I see your dog has, completely paced around your office throughout this recording already this morning.
Yeah, she thinks it's time to go to the shop and play with her dog friends.
There you go.
Yeah.
It is a good question to have. I know it's something you wanted to bring out about, pretty much dogs and trucks, customers' dogs, employees' dogs. We worked at a workplace where we pretty well had a dog daycare.
Yep.
If you remember, there was times we would have 3 dogs. Our dispatcher, myself, and our
Yep.
owners all had a dog.
Yep.
We would bring the dogs to the shop. The
Mhm.
dogs would hang out for the day at the shop and get picked up at the end of the day, like a daycare.
Mhm.
If I remember right, mine was one of the most well behaved.
I don't know.
My dog was well behaved. Okay,
Your
so
dog didn't get spleen kicks to keep it in line.
no, I'm not talking about old Boomer.
Mm.
But Dougie was not the brightest dog in the. I
No,
don't know if you were
Doug
around
was
for
not.
Dougie. So for those of you that don't know, when G and I used to work together, I have a German Shepherd.
Mhm.
She's out of the office right now because I didn't want to lock her in here. We had a dispatcher with a golden retriever who ended up
Mhm.
passing, and he got a puppy golden retriever.
Yeah.
And the owners had some mix of a mutt. I don't remember what kind of dog he was. He was wiry and a strange little fella.
Yeah.
And we would bring them to the shop. Now, my dog was fairly trained. We worked on an industrial road,
Mm.
right? A
Yeah.
dead end road. And my dog would know to be let outside, go up to the front big grassy area, do her business, come back to the shop.
Mhm.
We had almost trained her at one point on how to let herself out. We had one of those crossbar doors,
Mhm.
and I could teach her to get up. She just wouldn't always hit the door. My wife thought this was the worst thing I could ever teach my dog. I taught it how to escape. Every time, my dog would not leave the property.
Mhm.
My dog would wander on the property, run the property line, the odd time get a little, if she got a little bit close to an edge. But for the most part, I could let her out. She would run up front, do her stuff, come back.
Yep.
The owner's dog, however, loved to wander.
Yep.
And every time that dog would get out, we would find it across the road, out in the field,
Yeah, covered in
doing
burrs
whatever
or
it wanted to
whatever.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my dog would be with it every time.
Yeah. Because just monkey see, monkey do. I'll follow
Yeah.
you.
Oh, you're going over there? Okay, we can go over there.
Yeah.
So yes, before we get into the debate on dogs in trucks, whether it be customer or drivers, I wanted to make it adamantly clear. I am a dog person.
Mhm.
I think that'll influence many people's decision on this, right? On where they stand on it. If you don't like dogs, pretty sure it's an easy debate. You're going to be like, nah. If you do like dogs, it's a little harder argument to have.
Mhm.
So where do you stand, G, on dogs it's your question, in the tow truck, right? So we're not talking about the shop. The shop is one thing.
Mhm.
We are talking about physically out in the truck while doing calls.
I'm not the biggest fan of having a dog in the tow truck. Now, as you can tell, I am a dog person. I've got one behind me. And the reason being is our job is dangerous enough, right? We're working on the side of the road. We're dealing with people on bad days. Sure, seeing a happy, smiling dog face might be able to brighten some people's day. But what if you put that window down or you forget to put the child locks on and your dog is like mine and says, "Oh, daddy's going over there. I want to be next to him," and jumps out the window and you're on a highway. Well, now your focus from your job and your safety and the customer safety now turns to your dog that I'm sure you care for if you're a dog owner and want to bring it with you everywhere you go, i.e., a tow truck. Your dog's now running around loose on the side of the road and you got to try to catch it. Now, depending on how your recall is, that might be fairly easy or it might be fairly challenging. So that part right there is, what if your dog gets out? What if when you open the door for a customer to get in, the dog greets the person in a not so friendly manner? Not saying your dog's vicious, but maybe that person doesn't like dogs. And you're her only or their only hope to get off the side of the road, and now your customer doesn't feel comfortable getting in the truck with you because you have a dog, right? Don't get me wrong, would I love to have a dog, a companion in my truck with me while I'm out doing calls? 100%. But there's just too many potential red flags or cons to having a dog with you on your day to day operations to really make it worth the while, unfortunately. Now, I've had co-workers that I've had small, like little wiener dogs that had like a duffel case or like a duffel bag that's like a dog pen with a vent on the side. Something like that you can just pick up and put in the back seat. Don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of those dogs. I think that they're like cats or rats or whatever. That I'm okay with because the dog is contained and it's within its confined space. That okay, I can kind of see if you got to look after the dog, just don't make it a habit. But a dog that's over 20 pounds, probably not.
So
That's not even getting into the allergy point of the topic either.
absolutely. So when it comes to dog, you nailed it on the head, right?
Yeah.
I don't. The last thing that ever pops into my mind is the dog getting loose out on the side of the road, because I mean that's not where my concern lies. It's when you said, what if the customer doesn't like dogs,
Yeah.
and they feel uncomfortable now having to ride in the truck? Right there is the one reason why it won't happen.
Mhm.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, we are a service industry. Now we are not a taxi.
Mhm.
Right. I will make the comparison that how would you feel if a cab showed up with a dog in it?
Mhm.
Be a little weird.
Yeah.
Right. I get it. We're not taxis. I'm not
Mhm.
trying to claim that we are. And, I'm wholeheartedly against even passenger ID at times.
Mhm.
However, it's the reality of it that we do have passengers that we are helped out. You've got, dogs can be trained ridiculously well. Right. Now, I as a consumer, as a customer who have broken down on the side of the road, has my young children with me,
Mm-hmm.
need to trust that your dog is trained properly, and I don't know you from dirt.
Yep.
No, I am not putting in that position, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
do not. If I am very uncomfortable being in that position.
Mm-hmm.
We are a service industry.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a companion, get a pet rock, right?
Hmm.
Like it's
Get a volleyball and put a face on it.
100%. Get Wilson, put him on the dash.
Yeah.
But no, we are the service industry, and we deal with situations where we have customers that are having a hard time, whether it be they were just involved in an accident, whether they're having a breakdown for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have people in a high stress situation already, right? To introduce an animal to that, these are not service dogs,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't even want to get
And
into the whole service dog argument.
your emotional support dog is not a service animal. Okay.
Okay, sure, you can make that argument. I'm not getting into that debate. Now, that being said, 100%, it is you're treating the public. You cannot have an animal involved in that in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have a shop dog that's there for security, where they're coming to your premises to release items, and you can keep the dog tied up in a completely separate. 100%, you can't do that in a tow truck.
No.
It's like your little carry crate. If you're gonna leave the dog in a carry crate, why do you even have the dog with you? Like,
Yeah.
I won't rant on that tangent either.
Hmm.
But no, we are a service industry, and dogs should not be allowed. Now, when it comes to customer dogs, that has been a tough debate. Now, our company policy states that dogs do not ride in the trucks, regardless if they're ours. We've never had to specify our dogs,
Mm-hmm.
or if they are the customer.
Mm-hmm.
I am a big believer in leaving the dog in the towed vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, that is done for multiple purposes. Again, I need to trust that your dog is controllable from somebody that I've never met.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a dog owner, I've been to dog parks, I've been everything. I have seen great pet owners. I've seen terrible pet owners.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you it's something you cannot differentiate which one they are by looking at them.
Yeah.
Right? You can't. Right? And even short interactions. I've seen people, like people say, I'm a good pet owner and I have control of my dog. And I've lost control of my dog before.
Mm-hmm. They're animals. They do what they want sometimes.
100%. So, just as I would not expect to put a customer in a situation of discomfort or risk, the customer should not put the operator into that as well.
I've made exceptions for having the customer's dog in my truck before. And a lot of times it's because the dog is nervous as hell. The customer could be very nervous about leaving the dog in the towed vehicle because it might destroy the vehicle because it's got anxiety, because dogs have anxiety now. And a lot of times they're small dogs to begin with. Even better if they're mixed with poodle, because then they don't shed the same and they're hyperallergenic. To be honest with you, I don't really care about the allergy point of view. Like, there's going to be hair in any vehicle you drive in. The chances of you getting into a friend's vehicle, if you're allergic to dogs and they've had a dog in their backseat before and they haven't got the hair out, chances are you're going to have a reaction. If you're going to have a reaction to that, you're going to have to be very careful going through life. So I'm not too concerned about the allergy point of view. But I've had dogs in the back seat, and a lot of times I get the owner to keep them on their lap if they're a small dog, because then they have the control and they can comfort the dog, and the dog can comfort them if they're having a rough day, because they called a tow truck and I'm there assisting them. But 9 times out of 10, especially if it's a big dog, I make sure put your window locks on, put them down about yay much, and make sure you take the key out. And you just leave them in the vehicle wherever they're comfortable with. Hopefully they don't jump into the front seat, and especially if it's a front wheel drive car, they don't jump down to where the pedals are if you're towing it on a wrecker, because that would suck. I've never had that before, where a dog lays on the brake pedal.
I
Imagine
guess he's
if
got
that
to
would
stop
happen.
to pee.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard of it happening. I've never even thought about it happening.
That is one concern of mine. Like, does your dog normally jump in the front seat? Like, if you go into a store, what does your dog do while you're gone into the store? Because I know some dogs, like my dog, loves laying directly behind the driver's seat on the floor. Well, if I'm not in the vehicle, maybe she'll want to lay right where my feet would be because she
Mm,
can smell me there.
yeah,
And that's a
but
fear of
no,
mine. But
but no, it's okay. The allergy thing, yes, you know, I've used that as a cheat code,
mhm.
so to speak, to get out of having my customers, allowing my customers to have their
Th-
dogs in it.
it's a good excuse to throw out
I've
of their admin.
never, I think I've ran into once in my career where I've had a customer where I said the dog had to stay in the towed vehicle, who
Mhm,
was adamant that they weren't going to do it.
mhm,
And this thing was, I don't remember what kind of dog it was, but it was like a shepherd or something like that. It was
mhm,
something that would, like, I'm not getting that fur all over. I have a dog, and
mhm,
I hate the amount of dog fur that I have in my, you know, at all times around me, and I do a good job keeping the fur
mhm,
off of me.
mhm.
So I'm not having your dog spread fur all over my tow truck
Yeah,
and then having to clean that up,
yeah.
right? Unless there's going to be an added fee.
Mhm.
Which again, then they went, "What do you mean you're going to charge?" Could you imagine the hit on social media? This guy charged me $100 or $75 cleanup fee to have my dog ride in the tow truck. What
Yeah,
a scam,
yeah.
right? Under TSSEA regulations, I couldn't charge that actually,
No, you can't.
but so then no, your dog doesn't ride in the truck. It's nothing personal. And again, I always explain to people that I am a dog person,
Mhm,
right? I have a shepherd at home, and if I were ever in this situation, my dog, can get a little wiry and squirrely, and I
mhm,
don't know how she would handle being left in the towed vehicle.
mhm.
That being said, that's what happens. That's what I would expect to happen, and that's what I would have to live with. If my dog chewed a headrest because it was getting stressed out,
Mhm.
it's not the tow truck guy's problem because he didn't let me take the dog in the truck.
Yeah.
That's my problem for being out with my dog. It's part of it. If you don't have somebody that can come pick you, you know what I mean? Like, as much as
Mhm.
I want to be sympathetic to the situation that the consumer is in,
Mhm.
I have no problem putting myself into that situation and
Yeah.
going, what would I expect as reasonable service? And I
I
would
think
not expect any operator to take my dog in the truck with them. So therefore,
I
I am not going to take dogs in the truck. Have I made exemptions in the past? Like you said, 100%.
Mhm.
Right? I'm not saying that no matter what, it would be a hard no. I don't want to sound like a heartless bastard in that sense. I have
Mhm.
made the exemption,
Yeah.
right? And I truly do believe it's up to the operator. But anything that sheds, no.
Mhm.
Like, I get mad. I found out one of my drivers did that one time, and I went in his truck, and the passenger seat was coated in fur.
Mm.
And I said, I hope you enjoy cleaning that up because, like,
Well, I think
you
one of
know,
the issues is like you said, reasonable service. And to be fair, a lot of these customers are roadside customers. And I know most roadsides actually have a policy in their terms of service about dogs riding in the towed vehicle, but they
okay.
don't advertise that. Like, it's not
Well,
something to
roadside
advertise.
companies don't advertise any of the negative in their policies because then their policies would not look so enticing or
I know.
encouraging once they actually read the fine print.
And it's hard to get people to actually read things that they're signing up for. I'm just as bad as everyone else. But I don't know, maybe if they say, especially if the customer states on the phone that, hey, it's myself, my husband, or my wife, and I've got my dog with them, maybe the dispatcher or the call taker should say, okay, just so you're aware, this is our policy. The dog is supposed to stay in the towed
Do you
vehicle.
think these roadside call takers know their company? Have you, like, guy, you've been around the towing industry long enough.
I
You
know.
receive the calls from them.
I know.
These roadside call takers don't know what their fine print is.
But
They rely on the towing company, the contractor, to
it's
go out
it's
and solve their problem for them.
it's funny because we got to follow all these new rules and regulations, and if we miss something up, we could lose our towing license. But the dispatchers can just do their job half-ass and be perfectly fine.
Like the roadside dispatchers?
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah. So
Because
I just find it funny.
they don't fall under the new regulations,
I know they don't fall under the
right?
new
Doing
regulations, but if we're supposed to be more streamlined and more professional-ish, so should the front line call takers. That's my opinion.
so with this new regulation, we've seen a funny one actually. Before we go on to the show, we'll end on some more to see it. We started with some, we might as well finish with a little bit of
Yeah.
it. Under these new regulations, we have to be very transparent with everything that we
Mhm.
do. Meaning, signatures for this, where the vehicle is getting picked up, where it is going. It cannot change without a new signature, and so on and so forth. All things that are not terrible for the industry. Right? All things that are going to ensure that the consumer and the tow truck operator are on the same page when it comes to services being rendered. The other day, I get a call from an insurance company, so to speak, to go pick up an accidented vehicle at a residence and bring it to a body shop. Now, it's funny, ironically, with how much we fight with the insurance company, we do these tows. And the reason we do them is because we have them structured in a way that is a profitable way. We don't do discount for, you're not getting us at a contractor, cheap rate because we're willing to do this work.
Yep.
So on the pickup slip that they give us, it says at the bottom, do not ask the owner to sign the ownership. Do not tell them that the vehicle may be going to auction. Do not tell them where the vehicle is being brought. If they ask, advise them it is being brought to a secure storage facility. Blatantly lie to the consumer.
Yeah.
On behalf of us, your insurance company, who have gone in and forced you to be transparent in everything you do. And we ran into this situation.
I'm not okay with that.
I'm not okay with that either. We show up and the customer goes, I know the vehicle's going to a body shop, but which body shop is it going? Now, my driver didn't read that and I wouldn't expect him to anyways. I stand by what he did. He said, it is being brought to body shop A. The customer says, well, I've been talking with my insurance. I told them I don't want body shop A. I want body shop B. Well, I'm sorry, but that is where we were contracted to move the vehicle. Right? So the customer's like, nope, unacceptable. I don't want you to tow my vehicle. My driver goes, no problem. We call back and we advise them, customer did not want their vehicle brought there. You owe us the time for going out. And anyway, sent us back out later. Now I will say they never actually, I know it's an automatic thing they put on there. And I get it. It's not to scare the consumer. Don't tell them, oh, your car's probably a write-off, probably going to auction. Right? There's an approach to this, but you cannot say, do not tell them where the vehicle is going. If they ask, advise them it's going to a secure storage facility.
I'm sorry, my name is on the door and my reputation's at stake. And if I lie to someone and they find out that I lied to someone, that's not going to look good on me because they're going to go to me personally because they saw my face. They asked me the questions and I lied into their eyes.
So think about that whenever, it's just the irony of the timing. This has been on there forever. We've never really paid no to it. But it was just the timing of it right after the government says, hey, you guys need to be transparent in everything you do. Right? You need to make sure. And we know the insurance company was a big push on this. We're already seeing email signatures from insurance companies saying, please provide us with a copy of the signed consent to tow, consent to store. All those things, under. What's funny is they don't even quote the right regulations that it falls under. That's what I get a kick out of. So yeah, the towing industry, when it comes to everything we talked about, the dogs, the tickets, the all this stuff, comes down to one major thing. At the end of the day, always do everything you can to cover your ass.
Yep.
Right? 1 3-letter roadside legitimately stands for cover ass always.
Yep.
Right? So keep that in mind. Keep those 3 letters in your mind when it comes to, how you do your business, and you should be able to help stay yourself out of trouble.
Is that the title for this week's episode? Cover ass always?
I mean, I've been taking shots. I might as well take another one.
Yeah, why not?
Hey, we didn't actually talk bad about roadsides today, other than their call takers are useless.
Yeah.
So
I guess that's a shot.
So for a future episode, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or would like to tell us your worst call taker story, whether it be from a roadside or your own dispatch in the house, your most inaccurate information in a call that you have received, your biggest downplaying of the severity of a situation, and I know I've got a dozen of them. Right, you can visit us at www.towinglife.ca/contact us, or just head over to towinglife.ca. You'll find the link there. You can email us directly at thetowinglife@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast. If you're watching over on YouTube, do not forget, you can just comment down below. And we ask you, it costs nothing, regardless of where you are listening. Please head over to our YouTube channel hit that like and subscribe. Help promote the show in a way that, I'm not asking you to pay money. I'll keep coming back every week for free. I do that at my regular job. I might as well do that here. I pay TowManG 0% of whatever I make. So to help continue to pay him nothing, head over to YouTube, like and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Take care.
Toodles. Also, can't they review us on like Spotify? And
I don't know. I got Apple Podcast reviews. I don't know how they got there.
Oh,
I don't know how.
Review us if you can. If there's a review button, click review, and if there's a 5-star, click that too, please. Thanks. Bye.
Do that.